Hello, Painful Mass here. As I promised, today we'll be taking a look at confirmation bias. Confirmation bias takes several forms, but it overall refers to the phenomenon of favoring information that confirms your beliefs you already hold. One form confirmation bias takes is in the selective search for information. For instance, if you are a Democrat and a journalist, you may find yourself only seeking information from sources that are predominantly liberal or left-leaning. So whenever you get information, it always reinforces opinions you already have. I can't stress this enough, but as with all of these biases, it is very possible that you're doing this unintentionally and don't even realize that you're doing it. For this reason, you may think that you are examining all sides of an issue and hence all sides seem to be favoring your opinion, so it must be true, but this is not the case. Another form it takes is biased interpretation of information. This is really just rationalization again though, and we already talked about that. A key extra point here is that when presented with two pieces of information, you have a harsher set of standards for evidence that goes against your view and accept easily evidence for your view. Yet another way confirmation bias occurs is through biased memory. You forget things that oppose your view very easily and quickly and tend to remember things that support your views. This way it always feels like your current view is the one with all the evidence. Now I should say that this is probably the most studied bias I'm going to talk about. All three forms of confirmation bias I listed above have many studies that carefully control for all sorts of different things, and they all confirm that this bias is very real and happens without people being aware of it. In other words, people always think they are being fair and balanced, yet the confirmation bias is present. One rather funny experiment mentioned by Robert Burton goes as follows. A group of people are asked to carefully count the number of times a basketball is passed in a short video clip. Everyone carefully watches, and at the end, a few different numbers emerge. But then the facilitator asks the group if they saw the gorilla. No one did. Many deny that there even was one, and some think that if there was one, then it must have been hidden off to the side or somewhere else. The facilitator plays the video again, and it turns out the gorilla comes into the middle of the basketball court and dances a little. The whole thing is incredibly conspicuous, and everyone is wildly amazed that they didn't see it. But when the brain is focused on getting a certain type of information, very blatant, obvious things can be completely blocked out by the brain. No trace remains that it ever even happened. The most important type of experiment for us is probably the ones that show a persistence of discredited beliefs. These types of experiments run along the following lines. A group of people perform a task, then they are told at random whether they did a good job or a bad job. It's completely random. And then later it is explained to them that the assignment of this judgment was random and not based on performance at all. The subjects verify that they understand that what they were told was not true. In other words, all information about the belief was discredited. The belief in that judgment still persists though, and the subjects reinforce that belief by confirmation bias. Lee Ross, Craig Anderson, and Mark Lepper have done many studies on this if you're curious about the specifics. But the key thing is that beliefs can persist through 100% discredited information. And I already talked about this in the first video of the series about the girl who believed dead people have heartbeats, even though she learned that she formed this belief in a completely fictitious sense. Even if all the information that you've based a belief on is discredited, it is possible to maintain the belief, and more importantly, since you have the belief, you'll start to build reasons to believe it again through confirmation bias. I have three religious examples to end with. So recall the prayer example from last time. It not only illuminates rationalization, but it is also a good example for confirmation bias. People that already believe prayer works subconsciously filter all the times that has produced no noticeable results. What they do remember are the few times that there has been a positive outcome. Their selective memory is an example of confirmation bias at work. It will make the person feel like prayer works all the time since they are only looking for positive results and they're forgetting the negative. The second example is that almost every religion I know of really banks on confirmation bias working. It's almost as if the people writing the religious text knew about it. Most religions I know about have some form of the following argument. You will see evidence for God only after you put faith in him. Or in other words, God only shows evidence to the believers. But, well, duh, this is exactly what we're talking about. And if you have to have the belief in order to see the evidence, then I don't know of anything more reliant on confirmation bias than that. Lastly, a sort of favorite thing for YouTube atheist/theist debates involves Christians bringing up the Josephus text. Ignore this example if you don't know what that is, but basically some Christians have got it into their head that the Josephus text actually has some merit somehow. Yet all legitimate scholars, including Christian ones, reject the authenticity of it. We know that it was highly tampered with or is even possibly a complete forgery. Yet just as we noted above, despite complete discrediting of information, these people can't shake the belief. Then they go turn to cranks who say that it is authentic off of no evidence or even fake evidence to reconfirm their belief, and the cycle starts over again. There's probably lots more interesting examples to talk about dealing with confirmation bias. I've barely scratched the surface, but if you're interested, just do a search for studies on it and you'll have more reading than you could ever imagine. I'll end this one like I did my last one. It is not a judgment on you if you are feeding a false belief with confirmation bias. We all do this in tons of areas of our lives. It is inescapable. This is why it's good to know about. We need to step back when we find that all evidence is leading to a single conclusion and see if we're giving evidence against our views a fair chance. My hope is just that religious people who see this allow the possibility, no matter how small, to enter their mind that it might be possible that their religious beliefs are actually false beliefs that are just supported off of confirmation bias. But again, the irony of this video is that confirmation bias will probably happen, and people who already know about this will just treat it as confirming their beliefs, and people who disagree with it will just write it off as some crazy person on YouTube who doesn't know what he's talking about. Thanks for watching.